Hello, I'm Kelly and I work in the Adult Services Department here at the Traverse Area District Library in Woodmere. So today we have a new craft tutorial video for you. So this is kind of what it looks like in here, and we're going to be making coasters. So we're making our cardboard loom coasters today. So stay tuned. So this is your kit. So inside we have our little cardboard loom here. And I've already drawn out the template for you. And then we've got a couple different colored yarns to work with. You have enough there that should make 2 coasters. And then you also have your threading needle. And this is the yarn here that you'll use to make your warps. And so those are these long pieces here on the side that will kind of help create the base for our coaster. So that is everything that is included in the kit. What you'll need is a pair of scissors and a pencil. And you will also need like a fork or a comb or anything that can kind of help push those pieces down. And I'll give you an explanation of how to do that in just a few minutes. So we have our template drawn out here. And then to make the lines, it's going to create our wraparounds. Basically, I took a ruler and measured that this box was 11.5 centimeters. And I went down here, marked my beginning side of the box, end side of the box, and basically did a half tick for every half centimeter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut into those lines that we just made. So cut in not a large amount, but a good enough indentation. So that's probably maybe a good 1.5 centimeters. The reason for this is if you just cut a little ways, you're not going to really get that strength. And you'll do this the whole way down. And if you kind of overlap on your cutting, that's fine too. All right. So we got the first section done. Now we're going to do the other side. All right. So both of our sections are cut. We are ready to wrap the base of our loom. So in your kit, we've given you a couple different yarns to work with, but we gave you a larger amount of the yarn that's going to be the base. And the reason for that is that's going to be the majority of the yarn that you use. If you have something else and you want to swap it out, go for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that first piece and we're just going to kind of notch it in there. And you can just leave a little piece hanging here. And if you have tape, feel free to use some of that. It's good to just kind of hold your base there. And so basically, you're going to go down to that other end and bring your yarn wrapping it all the way around. Bring it over and through. And you're going to do that for the other side. Wrap it around the back side. Go into that next little notch. Pull it down. And don't pull it so tight that you're going to like bend your project. But you want some good retention there. You don't want it to be super, super loose. So we have our loom all wrapped with our warps and everything. So the easiest part is to, because your wraps are pretty close to the cardboard. So to make it just a little bit easier, what you can do is you can either take, I have a little tool here that helps me, or you can take a pen or a pencil or anything like that. Anything that's just going to give you a little bit of lift. So it makes it just a little bit easier to kind of get your needle under there and pick up those stitches. Okay, so I've got mine placed. You know, something flat, and it kind of helps to guide you as well. So you can kind of put it at the end there, and you know you don't want to really go past that bottom line. So now we're going to take some yarn here, and we don't really want to work with this huge bundle. That would just take a really long time to pull it through and everything. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take just a nice little length and just cut it to trim, because we want to make it kind of straighty. So as you saw on my little demo one, just kind of gives you a nice little extra texture there. All right, so go ahead and kind of loop your yarn. And we're pretty much going to be doing this backwards and forwards motion the whole way up our coaster. So what you'll do is you'll take one on one side and wrap it on the other side. So back and forth like this. And that's creating that weaving. So back and forth. And this is just the basic weaving pattern to start with. There's so many other different ones. So go ahead and pull your yarn all the way through until you have a little tail. So we want to leave a little bit of a tail so we can kind of weave it in at the end. If you make it too short, that's going to stick out. You're not going to be able to get your needle in there and weave it in nicely. So give yourself a little bit of a tail there. And what I said before, take a fork and just kind of work it down to the bottom. So with this side, we're going to take it and we're going to do the opposite on top. So as we did this one, we did the yarn on the top. So we're going to fold it under the bottom. So we're going to lift it up this time. And each piece is going to be the opposite of what we did with it last time. So just go back and forth. It can get a little tricky towards the end because your needle definitely want to pick it through there. All right, and pull your yarn. Now, this is the part where we need to kind of pay attention. So it is easy to pull your yarn and, oh my gosh, that's way too tight. We don't want that. So let's kind of loosen that up a little bit here. You definitely want to make sure, you want to try and maintain this straight sides. When your project starts bending in a little bit too much, you definitely know you're pulling your yarn a little too tightly there. And this is where the fork comes in handy. Not too squished up, but definitely, you know, make it nice and snug there. So there. So we got 2 rows, and again, we're just going to go back and forth again. And we're just going to keep doing this until essentially we run out of this color, or if you want to switch in between, that's fine as well. So I've gotten to the end. So we don't want to just use all of this. Like I said, you want a little bit of a tail, so you can weave that in at the end. So now we're going to take our contrast yarn. Again, not too much of it. I think I might even use a little bit less to make this, you know, stripe a little smaller. So again, thread your yarn. And see how I have, you know, really pushed back that yarn. I'm really creating that closer, you know, tight weave there instead of having it super loose. So again, we're going to follow the same pattern. So if we were done with that row, now we're going to go back the same way. Everything organized here. Okay, so kind of shimmy that down a little bit. Take your fork and just tuck that down. Again, and see how I have just a little bit of a gap? You can go ahead and just kind of pull the yarn, not too much obviously. Just make it nice and snug on the side there. So without, you know, keeping everyone here for hours and hours to show you that project, I'll kind of show you on my little demo one here. So we've got all these little ends that essentially we want to weave in. So, but first, we want to go ahead and cut our project and get it off the loom here. So, a couple different ways you can do it. The easiest one is to just go ahead and cut and tie off down here. So just go ahead, get our scissors under there. Try not to cut too low down because you need to knot these together. And if you have just a tiny little thread, it's going to be kind of hard to do that. So I like to cut once and then trim at the end. So go ahead and just snip. And now we're going to take 2, and depending on how you like to do your knots, I like to do the loop knot. You can tie them together separately. This just makes it a little cleaner, I think. And we're just going to keep doing that. All the way down. The end. And of course, at the end, we have 3, so not a big deal. Just take all 3 of those and make your little last little loop. There we go. So before we do the other side, let's go ahead and start weaving some of these ends in. Okay, so we'll take our little needle here. Go ahead and take our final end. I'm going to give it a trim because I left that tail a little long there. So go ahead and thread it through. And so this is our underside here. And this is kind of the side that people aren't going to see as much. We can still make it look nice though. So a good trick is to just kind of neatly thread that through and kind of keep it tight there. And kind of quickly go back and forth here. And so you're essentially weaving that end in. That's all right. So you can kind of weave it back and forth here in your color. There's a lot of weaving in your ends techniques out there. This is just kind of a basic back and forth one. So go ahead and just snip that. So feel free to cut the other ends on your coaster there. And I trimmed the little tassels as well, so you can leave them longer if you want, or shorter. And so, see, that's our underside. It doesn't look too bad. This is definitely a little bit more enjoyable side here. And then you can go ahead and grab your drink and you have a coaster now. So again, feel free to share your finished projects with us. Our Instagram, #NotJustBooks. Share them on our Facebook page as well. I'd love to see them. And we look forward to having you back for another craft tutorial. Thank you so much.